The payments industry moves fast. The economics behind it move even faster. Welcome to On the Wire, a show about the economics of payments, the institutions moving money, and the infrastructure underneath it all. This episode is produced by Payware using AI voice synthesis, built from primary research, technical documentation, and real market data. No studio, no hosts, just the content, clearly presented. Let's get into it.
You know, if you send an email today and it takes 3 full days to arrive in your friend's inbox, you wouldn't just be annoyed.
Right, you'd assume your internet was physically broken.
Exactly. Or like if you stream a movie and it buffers for 48 hours, you're on the phone demanding a refund.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in a world where data moves at the speed of light.
Yeah, it's practically instantaneous.
But when it comes to the most important data of all money, we suddenly just, shrug. We accept that it's going to take a long, mysterious weekend to get from point A to point B.
We really do treat it like it's some fundamental law of physics.
Yeah.
You swipe a card at a coffee shop, and the merchant doesn't actually see that money for 2 or 3 days. And we've just completely normalized this artificial delay, both as consumers and as business owners.
And that bizarre reality brings us to our deep dive today. We're unpacking a really eye-opening article from Payware, and it's titled, Why Instant Settlement Matters Beyond Just Speed.
It's a great piece.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the mission for this deep dive is to show you why that standard 2 to 3 day wait for credit card payments to clear is not just some inevitable minor annoyance.
Right.
It is a massive hidden tax. It's something that fundamentally alters the basic economics of running a business. Because for most of us listening, instant settlement probably sounds like a luxury.
Like a nice-to-have feature.
Yeah, like a software upgrade or something.
Which is exactly the mindset the source material tackles right out of the gate. I mean, we need to reframe this entirely.
Okay, how so?
Well, the difference between a business getting paid in the exact same second the customer walks out the door versus waiting 3 days is not a matter of patience.
Right.
It's about literal financial risk. It's about the sheer chaos of trying to reconcile your accounting books. And most critically, it's about cash flow. That delay is actually a structural flaw in how our economy operates.
So whether you run a small e-commerce brand or you invest in massive retail chains or, you're just someone who wants to understand the hidden plumbing of the economy you interact with every single day.
Yeah.
This exploration is going to completely change how you view a simple transaction.
It really will.
Let's start by looking at the hard math. Because when you actually quantify the cost of waiting, you realize that delayed settlement is, it's an invisible financial penalty.
Yeah, the source lays out this concept called working capital math.
Okay, let's walk through this scenario they use. Because I think they talk about a business doing, 500,000 euros in monthly revenue?
Exactly. This is where the theory hits reality and the numbers are just staggering. So imagine that business doing 500,000 euros a month.
Okay.
They're paying a standard 1.5% in credit card processing fees, and they face an average 2.5-day delay in settlement.
2.5 days, right.
Now, if you ask most business owners what their payments cost them, they look at that percentage and say, okay, my direct costs are my card fees.
Which would be 7,500 a month.
Right. Or 90,000 euros a year. They write that 90,000 into their budget, complain about the credit card companies for a minute, and just move on.
Because that's the visible cost, right? The toll booth they actively see themselves driving through.
Exactly. But they are missing a massive hidden cost, which is the sheer volume of money constantly locked up in that 2.5-day delay.
Just floating in the ether.
Yeah. I mean, if you are doing 500,000 a month and you're always waiting 2.5 days for your revenue to arrive, you mathematically have an average of 42,000 euros constantly trapped in settlement limbo.
Wait, 42,000?
Yep. It is your revenue. You earned it.
No.
But you cannot touch it.
Okay, let me make sure I'm wrapping my head around this. Because that 42,000 isn't just, sitting there harmlessly.
No, not at all.
If I'm running that business, I still have to pay my staff on Friday. I still have to buy inventory, keep the lights on. If my own money is locked in this digital timeout, how am I paying for those things?
You have to finance it. You have to pull that 42,000 from somewhere else.
Oh, wow.
Let's say you have a standard line of credit with the bank at a 6% cost of capital. You are now paying 6% interest on 42,000 euros every single year just to cover the gap of your own money being delayed.
That's insane.
Right. It adds an extra 2,520 euros a year in hidden borrowing costs.
Yeah.
So your true cost of processing payments isn't that visible, 90,000. It's 92,520.
It's like you're being forced to take out a continuous rolling loan just to access your own paycheck.
Exactly what it is.
I mean, imagine if you told an employee, hey, you earned your salary today, great job, but the bank is going to hold it for 3 days. If you want to buy groceries tonight, you need to take out a high-interest loan to cover yourself.
The people would riot.
We'd think it was completely absurd, but businesses just accept it. Now, what happens to that math if we introduce the alternative the source talks about, the immediate account-to-account or A2A settlement?
It changes completely. The source uses an A2A example with a 0.5% fee and instant availability.
Okay.
Because the fee is lower, your direct costs drop to 30,000 euros a year. But the real magic is in the working capital. The money locked up drops to zero.
Zero, meaning the second the customer hits buy, I can use that money to pay my supplier.
Precisely. You don't need that line of credit anymore. Your true cost drops from over 92,000 down to just 30,000 a year.
Wow.
By eliminating the high fee markup and eliminating the need to borrow your own money, you achieve a 68% reduction in your payment costs.
That is a massive operational shift. But having your money locked up for 2.5 days isn't just a flat, even delay across the month, is it?
No, it really isn't.
The source gets into how this actually behaves over a calendar week, and this is where the mechanics of it get really messy.
Yeah, because the calendar itself becomes a trap. This isn't just a spreadsheet problem, it's a compounding real-world friction. Think about how the traditional credit card network operates. Let's say you have a great sales day on Monday. That money typically settles and hits your bank on Wednesday.
Okay, so Tuesday's sales settle on Thursday.
Right, Wednesdays settle on Friday. But what happens on Thursday?
No, the weekend.
The weekend interrupts the whole process. Those Thursday sales don't settle until Monday.
And what about Friday?
If you sell 22,000 euros worth of goods on a busy Friday, you are not seeing a single dime of that money until Tuesday of the following week.
That is 4 days.
Yeah.
I mean, you're operating totally blind for half the week.
Exactly.
To use an analogy, it sounds like the current credit card system operates like an old-school post office. They collect all the mail all day long, throw it in a bag, put it on a truck, and if it's the weekend, the truck just parks in a garage until Monday morning.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. And if you run a 5 million euro a year business, that post office delay creates a constant rolling limbo of anywhere from 30,000 to 55,000 euros.
That's so much cash to just not have access to?
Think about a local restaurant. They have to pay their food suppliers daily.
Right.
If they take in a massive haul of credit card payments on a busy Friday and Saturday night, they still have to float those receivables with a credit line just to pay the produce vendor who shows up at the back door on Saturday morning.
Or if you're listening to this and you run an e-commerce brand, you know exactly what this feels like.
Oh, totally.
You have a massive viral weekend, you sell out of half your stock, you desperately want to reorder inventory on Monday morning so you don't miss out on momentum. But all your weekend revenue is stuck on that parked truck until Tuesday.
Yep.
Does this mean businesses are effectively throttling their own growth over the weekend simply because they are waiting for Tuesday to roll around?
Absolutely. They are entirely throttling their growth. Or consider a seasonal business like a ski resort or a holiday retailer.
Oh, where time is super limited.
Exactly. If you make 80% of your revenue in a strict 6-week window, you are starved for capital right at your absolute peak. Every major sales day puts your money in a multi-day timeout when you need it most.
But with immediate account-to-account settlement, those Friday night sales are in your bank account on Friday night.
Yes. A restaurant can distribute Friday night credit card tips to their staff immediately at the end of the shift. No one has to float anything.
Okay, so if time is money, then tracking that money over time must be an accounting nightmare.
It's the worst.
Let's look at what happens in the back office. Because if the money isn't actually in my account when the customer buys something, what exactly is happening? The source brings up the illusion of a transaction being authorized.
Yes. The authorized mirage.
Walk me through the mechanics of a traditional card swipe, because I think most of us fundamentally misunderstand what that little approved message actually means.
That little approved message is the source of so much confusion and risk. With traditional card settlement, every single transaction exists in 4 distinct states. State 1 is authorization. The customer taps their card, the machine beeps, you get a receipt. The merchant sees the payment as authorized, but the money has not moved. It is entirely pending.
Wait, hold on. Let me stop you at state one.
Sure.
So when the machine beeps and says approved in the store doesn't actually have my money. The machine is basically just lying to them.
It's not lying, but it is giving them an IOU. It is the bank saying, at this exact second, this person has the credit and we authorize the purchase, but no money has changed hands.
Wow.
That brings us to state 2, which is batch settlement. At the end of the day, the merchant system takes all those IOUs, batches them together into one massive file, and sends them to the processor. Still, no money has moved.
Okay, I am starting to see the friction.
Then we hit state 3, bank deposit. This happens 2 or 3 days later. The money finally arrives in the merchant's bank account as a giant lump sum. And that forces state 4, reconciliation. This is where a very tired accountant, probably late at night, has to look at this giant lump sum deposit and manually match it back to hundreds of individual transactions from 3 days ago.
Oh my God.
All while trying to account for the UR. And this is a massive hidden risk. The source reveals an industry average that most people outside of payments don't know. 0.5% to 1.5% of all authorized card transactions fail during the settlement phase.
Wait, you're kidding. Up to 1.5% of the time, that IOU just bounces? Why?
Think about the mechanics of the delay. A customer buys something on a debit card on Monday. The bank authorizes it.
Okay.
But by Wednesday, when the settlement system actually tries to pull the money out of their account might be overdrawn from an auto pay bill that hit on Tuesday.
Oh.
Or maybe they reported the card stolen, or there was a weird technical failure in the batch processing. Whatever the reason, the payment fails. For a €5 million business, a 1.5% failure rate means 25,000 to 75,000 euros in unrecoverable lost revenue every year.
Because the customer already drank the coffee, they already wore the shoes or took the flight, they're long gone, and 3 days later you find out you didn't actually get paid for it.
Exactly. But with instant A2A settlement, the payment is the completion. The customer authenticates natively with their bank, the transfer completes, and the payment is done.
So no bouncing IOUs.
Right. If they don't have the funds right then and there, the payment fails instantly before you hand over the goods. Zero gap between authorization and settlement means zero settlement failures later on.
This feels like a critical pivot in how we understand business survival. Because eliminating that back office reconciliation chaos and completely removing that 1.5% risk of failed settlements, that doesn't just save a few hours of time.
Not at all.
It fundamentally rewrites the survival metrics for different types of businesses. Mm-hmm. The source gives a breakdown of a much larger business, a merchant doing 25 million in annual revenue. How does all this hidden friction scale up for them?
When you scale this up, you have to look at the total economic cost, not just the processing fees. For a 25 million merchant using traditional card processing at 1.2% fees and a 2.5-day delay, their direct fees are 300,000 euros.
Okay, pretty steep.
But when you factor in the capital costs of having 170,000 constantly locked up, the labor costs of having a team reconcile all those batch payments, the unrecovered failed settlements.
It adds up fast.
Yeah, and the early payment supplier discounts they miss out on because they don't have liquid cash. Their true total economic cost is 396,200 euros a year.
So almost 400 grand is just evaporating due to the plumbing of the system.
Yes. Now compare that to instant A2A settlement at a 0.5% fee. The direct fees drop to 125,000.
Okay.
Working capital locked up, 0. Failed settlements, 0. The reconciliation labor drops from 80 hours a month to just 10 hours. The total economic cost plummets to 128,000 euros a year.
That is a savings of over 268,000 a year. I mean, This isn't just about tweaking the engine for better gas mileage. This is fundamentally changing the aerodynamics of the entire car.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. And the source actually highlights a few specific industries where this shift is just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about grocery retailers, because we all know they operate on razor-thin margins.
Grocery is the perfect test case. A typical grocery chain might operate on a 1.5% net profit margin. It's a volume game.
Right.
But under the traditional card system, they are paying about 1.24% of their total revenue just to card fees and working capital costs.
Wait, so if their margin is 1.5% and the payment system costs 1.24%, They are handing over almost all of their potential profit just for the privilege of processing the payments.
It's staggering, isn't it? If that same grocery chain moves to instant A2A settlement at 0.5%, the source notes their net profit increases by a massive 50%. It completely changes the valuation and the survivability of that entire chain.
That's incredible. What about the software world? Say you run a SaaS or a subscription business. You don't have physical inventory like a grocery store. So how does this structural shift affect a digital company?
For SaaS and subscription models, the silent killer isn't inventory. It's involuntary churn.
Involuntary churn.
Yeah. Think about your own life. Your credit card expires every 3 years, or you lose it and get a new one issued. Do you immediately remember to go update your card details on every single software tool or streaming service you use?
Definitely not. I wait until they send me like 4 angry emails that my payment failed.
Exactly. And a lot of times, the customer just lets the subscription die because it's too much friction to update it.
Guilty.
The source notes that for a 12 million euro recurring revenue business, that involuntary churn from expired plastic cards can be around 20%.
20%.
Yeah. But instant A2A payments don't rely on a plastic card with an expiration date. They connect directly to the underlying bank routing numbers. Bank accounts don't expire.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
By shifting to instant bank settlement, involuntary churn drops from 20% down to 5%. That digital business saves almost 100,000 euros a year and retains a massive amount of revenue that would have just quietly slipped out the back door.
That is huge. The mechanism itself is just fundamentally more durable. And earlier, you briefly mentioned supplier discounts for e-commerce. How does instant money actually help me buy my inventory cheaper?
So in wholesale and manufacturing, suppliers often offer terms called 210 net 30. That means the full invoice is due in 30 days, but they will give you a 2% discount if you pay them within the first 10 days.
Because they want cash flow too.
Exactly. But you can only take that 2% discount if you have liquid cash. If your weekend sales are locked up in a batch file until Tuesday, you might miss that 10-day window.
Right.
With instant settlement, your capital is always available. Capturing a 2% discount on a 20,000 euro invoice saves you 400 euros instantly. Over a year, that adds up to 5,000 to 15,000 euros in pure savings for a typical merchant, entirely because the velocity of their own money was fast enough to pay early.
Okay, hearing all of this, the 50% profit jumps for grocery stores, the elimination of SaaS churn, capturing supplier discounts. I have to play devil's advocate.
Go for it.
Why isn't everyone doing this right now? How can legacy banks and payment institutions justify dragging their feet on offering this?
It comes down to the classic innovator's dilemma. For banks, traditional card processing is incredibly lucrative. Those 1.5% fees are a massive revenue stream.
Right, they don't want to lose that.
But the existential threat to banks is very real. The source poses a scenario. Imagine a regional bank with 500 merchant customers. If they drag their feet on offering A2A to protect those high card fees, and they lose just 10% of those merchants to an innovative competitor who does offer instant settlement.
That's 50 merchants.
That bank loses 6 million euros in annual revenue. They don't just lose the payment fee, they lose the merchant's business checking account, their loan portfolio, everything.
Oh, wow.
So banks have to cannibalize their own per transaction fees by offering lower cost A2A options, or they risk losing the entire relationship.
Adapt or die. But let's look at it from the merchant's perspective. If I'm listening to this and I own a retail business, ripping out my entire credit card infrastructure sounds terrifying. If the system goes down, my business halts. Do I have to just flip a switch one night and pray it works?
No, and that's a crucial point the source emphasizes. You don't transition by ripping out the old system. You integrate A2A alongside your existing card options.
Okay, so it's a parallel track.
Exactly, and it happens in 3 phases. Phase 1 is simply enabling A2A for 10 to 20% of your transactions. You leave the credit card terminals exactly as they are. You just dip a toe in, measure the adoption, verify that the instant settlement is hitting your bank, and test your back office reconciliation.
Okay, that lowers the blood pressure. What's phase 2?
Phase 2 is promotion. Once you know it works, you actively encourage your customers to use A2A. Because it's cheaper for you, maybe you offer a small incentive, like a 1% discount at checkout if they pay by a bank.
Oh, nice.
And you educate your staff on how to guide customers toward it. Finally, phase 3 is optimization. You track where A2A works best, where credit cards still have an edge, and you optimize the mix.
How long does this take?
The technical integration only takes about 2 to 4 weeks, and then you spend a few months maturing the adoption.
I do want to bring up the security aspect, because if we are bypassing the big traditional card networks, Visa, MasterCard, and moving money instantly, I guarantee people are thinking, is this safe?
Naturally.
If there's no 3-day delay, doesn't that mean there's no time to catch fraud?
It's actually a myth that the delay makes it more secure. In fact, A2A uses something called strong customer authentication, or SCA.
And what does that actually mean for the person holding the phone?
It means instead of typing in 16 numbers from a piece of plastic that anyone could steal, the checkout process seamlessly kicks you over to your actual banking app on your phone.
Oh, okay.
You authenticate the purchase using the biometric security of your bank, your Face ID or your fingerprint. Because it uses bank-level biometric authentication and because it entirely eliminates that multi-day window where an IOU can bounce, it is structurally, mechanically more secure for both the buyer and the merchant.
Is there any world where a customer actually prefers a payment to take 3 days?
Definitely not. Immediate confirmation benefits both sides.
And what about refunds? Because as a consumer, everyone knows the absolute agony of returning a sweater and seeing that message. Please allow 5 to 10 business days for the refund to appear on your statement. It's infuriating.
Right, because the money has to travel backwards through that exact same clunky multi-day post office system. But with A2A, instant payments mean instant refunds.
Oh, that's amazing.
The money goes right back through the direct bank connection into the customer's account in seconds. The customer experience is vastly superior.
Is this available everywhere right now? Like if I want to buy something from a boutique in Tokyo, does this work?
Currently, this infrastructure is primarily domestic. In Europe, you have the SEPA Instant Network. In the US, you have FedNow and RTP. The domestic rails are getting very robust.
But internationally?
International cross-border instant rails are still being built out and connected. So for international transactions, traditional cards still rule the day, at least for now.
So let's distill this journey we've been on. We started out looking at a process that almost everyone listening takes completely for granted.
Yep.
Swiping a piece of plastic and passively accepting that it takes days for the money to actually move. But we've unpacked how shifting from that 3-day wait to same second, account-to-account settlement does so much more than just speed things up.
It's a game changer.
It eradicates the hidden costs of financing your own working capital. It ends the weekend cash flow drags where you can't restock inventory.
Yeah.
It simplifies the absolute nightmare of back-office spreadsheet reconciliation. And it completely prevents that 1.5% in failed authorizations where the merchant gets left holding the bag.
And when you stack all of those mechanical benefits together, you aren't just tweaking a transaction, you are drastically lowering the total economic cost of doing business.
Right.
You're giving low-margin businesses, like grocery stores, room to actually breathe and turn a real profit. And you're giving high-growth digital businesses the immediate fuel they need to keep moving without being dragged down by expired plastic cards.
Exactly. Whether you are managing warehouse inventory, paying your suppliers early to catch a discount, or just making sure your restaurant staff gets their hard-earned tips in their bank account the minute their shift ends, the velocity of money is just as important as the quantity of it.
It really is the difference between potential energy and kinetic energy. Money stuck in a 3-day settlement batch is potential energy. You know it's there, but you can't use it. Money instantly deposited in your account is kinetic energy. You can immediately act on it.
Which brings up a fascinating ripple effect.
Yeah.
If we are moving toward a world where instant settlement becomes the absolute global standard and money genuinely moves at the speed of light for everyone, how is that going to change our psychology as consumers?
That's a great question.
Think about it. Right now, there is a weird psychological buffer when you use a credit card. You swipe, but your bank balance doesn't actually drop until days later. It doesn't feel entirely real in the moment.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind.
But if every single impulse buy, every coffee, every late-night online purchase instantly drains from your actual bank balance in less than a second, do we become much more disciplined with our spending because the pain of parting with cash is immediate? Or do we just go broke at the speed of light?
I guess we'll find out.
The payments industry spent 50 years accepting that a 2 to 3 day wait was just completely normal. So it makes you wonder, what other massive foundational frictions in the business world are we blindly accepting and paying for today simply because that's how the plumbing has always worked? It's something to think about next time you tap your phone.
That's On the Wire. produced by Payware, the transaction resolution network for instant A2A payments. This episode was AI generated from Payware's published research and documentation. If something sparked a question, the full source material is available at payware.eu. If you work in payments at a bank, an ISV, or a merchant organization, and what you heard is relevant to what you're building, reach out. The conversation doesn't have to stop here. Subscribe to On the Wire wherever you listen to podcasts. The next episode is already waiting.